Hello, hello, welcome back here. It's time for game number 2. Bethany Crumbs made it look easy with Gwen and friends there in the first one, but we'll see if University of Toronto can indeed strike back.
They're just snipping away at the competition. The Gwen debuting the newest champion to League of Legends, and a champion that clearly we had a little bit of a hard time on the side of University of Toronto dealing with. So I think that game 1 obviously can swing momentum, but because of how unique the champions that Bethany eSports won with, I think it's going to be a much easier time for UofT to bounce back and give us a competitive game 2.
I will also say how the jungle pool worked out in that game was really interesting. So Bethany banned Rumble and Morgana, which I think is fair. They're both very powerful, especially if you don't play them or just want to play with them. Because typically if you ban one, you have to ban the other one if the other team isn't banning it, because you don't want to leave one of them up. But if you leave one of them up and give it over, you have to take the other one typically. So not always all that fun on the red side. So I like the strategy of maybe just banning them away here. But then, you know, we thought, okay, Udi is coming through it, and it's going to be a nightmare because Udi is so powerful. And Hunter handled it pretty handily, I'll say, on the Nunu, which is not a champion we expected to see today. Let's put it that way.
It promoted what the jungle changes were trying to do, which is give us more ganks. And the Nunu delivered. He's a stronger ganker than Udyr, undeniably. And so teaming up with Hollywood in his Nautilus, they just ganged up in the mid lane, started roaming around, and that made it so much harder for the Udyr to then find any avenues to find his own ganks. The Kled denied an opportunity in the top side. 4 dives. We saw an attempt happen. Too difficult with the remount. And so with no pushing lanes, with no options to gank, the Udyr just sat back, watched the Nunu and the Nautilus take over the map and let their Gwen scale to the point that she 1v3'd and got the team the Baron that eventually closed out the game.
Yeah, Kled's surprisingly decent weak side pick there. Typically, you know, you need to play with your Kled because your Kled's playing aggressively, but can be pretty tricky to time down as well with the mounting system. So, handled well by Salura here, as Gwen is going to be expectedly banned. Otherwise, the bans are actually exactly the same. Shen, Rel, Gwen, Rumble, Morgana, Galio. For either side here. Kai'Sa the first pick this time around, which may give Thresh over. Little Frosty taking Thresh as the first overall pick actually in the draft, but now going to be taken away by Hollywood. So I guess we'll see. Was it Little Frosty winning the comfort, or is it Hollywood they didn't want to give the Thresh away to because it's too powerful? Perhaps a mix of both. But Udyr is going to come out here. That's so funny to me. You gave away Udyr, played Nunu, and then were willing to play Udyr anyway. So nice navigation here on the red side for Bethany, as the teams have not swapped sides here.
They prioritize champions and have shared champion pools, it seems like what I'm getting out of this. And especially because of what Raz
baby, here it comes.
Is that the Swain flex here out of UofT?
It is. I guess we'll see exactly where that's going to go, but that is Swain Twisted Fate, Kai'Sa, so clearly a lot of comfort here for UOT eSports, which you like to see. Silas, they're going to get locked in here. Pretty good against Twisted Fate, which is, I guess, what you'd expect to be battling here in the mid lane. So I imagine that's Bradley's champion going up against the Twisted Fate. I'll see what happens here in Phase 2 of bans. You know, these were 2 champions that were banned away, if I recall correctly, in Phase 2 last time around. So UOT going to take them this time, making sure that doesn't get away from them.
Should be pretty good against Swain too. Silas taking a Swain could be a menace there. You're not going to have those passive stacks, but I still think the extra survivability is something that Silas loves to have. Not as strong as an Alistar ultimate, but it still makes you feel really beefy and really aggressive in these fights, since it kind of fits the same style that we often see with the Udyrs and Thresh, which is just a shorter range composition. With a Swain ultimate, the Silas can be very deadly.
Yeah, there aren't very many bad ults to take with Silas, as it turns out. So you have one really good one, you typically find with whatever else your opponent's going to give you. And most champions have a good ultimate, Crumbs. It's kind of how they're designed. Silas, pretty good when you can potentially get access to any of them on the enemy team. Nocturne and Kled both going to be banned away here. One of them is a pretty popular solo laner this time around. The other one is Kled, but was piloted very nicely by Salura, as Aatrox also going to get banned away from 527.
The Nocturne, I think the solo lane prowess could go into the top lane, and then you'd have a really deadly combination with the TF and the Nocturne, just side lane galore for the UofT. It could be flexed into the jungle as well. I think the changes obviously made him a little bit easier to deal with when it comes to power clearing and keeping up with the rest of the junglers, but it's more than anything denying those synergies that UofT could potentially threaten, since they're gonna be a little bit experimental, as we already see this draft taking a turn that Bethany eSports wants to slow down, making sure that they put the brakes on these picks that could synergize really well with what they've got.
All right, well, Siva going to be the pick for Wizardish. Lost Kai'Sa, lost Samira, as it was the final ban for UOT eSports. So Siva seems perfectly good. We'll see how that one lines up in a moment. Also see, I guess it's pegged with Thresh already, so we'll see what the bottom lane matchup ends up being, is I guess the other question. But how do UOT finish this draft? Because it started pretty spicy. We'll see how they finish it here.
I think a Nautilus again, right? You're going to be able to maybe, if it's going to be the Swain support, you could put Swain to the solo lane, but the Nautilus seems like it has a lot of synergy, and I wouldn't mind just seeing a blind champion into the top lane that the enemy doesn't necessarily expect. I don't think that's the direction we're going to go. I think it's going to be the Kai'Sa and the Swain, yet it just doesn't have that kind of punch that you really want for the support to pair with the Swain or an AD, because you want to be able to chain the pullback with something else. Instead, it's just going to be focused on the solo lanes, and you're going to leave the Swain and the Kai'Sa to be range harassed into the bottom lane, because Renekton and TF, Xin Zhao, they just want to 3v3, they want to play to their lanes, and they don't really want to be involved with the bot lane.
Yeah, like the Xin here. Definitely something that Donkey is known for and is pretty fun, aggressive jungler. Not something we see too often, but perhaps with those jungle changes, as you alluded to, become a bit more popular. Salura, off weak side Kled, now onto weak side on. Perhaps a little bit more appropriate champion for the role, but played perfectly fine despite the attention he received in the early parts of that game. Is probably expected to be left alone in a lot of cases, at least by his team, maybe not by the enemy team. But we'll see what happens here, how this all shuffles around, because as you said, it does seem like Swain is going to be going bottom lane, unless it's Twisted Fate support, which would be a pretty fun one.
Wow, yeah, I mean, that is one option I didn't consider. Usually when I see Twisted Fate support, you get the Twisted Fate is telling people, guys, I am not trolling, right? Caveat, I'm actually playing this game seriously. It's a really good pick for me. I can show you I got really good gold cards, and if he can deliver on the gold cards and get out of the laning phase, that's when the Twisted Fate support really starts kicking in. You've got good ganks into the bottom lane, but against the likes of a Sivir and the Thresh, really difficult to chain these ganks, so they have to get out of laning phase and look for those globals to make value to this pick.
Yeah, Sivir actually seems like a great pick if you're anticipating Twisted Fate support, because so much of Twisted Fate's power is in stunning you, and so much of Sivir's power is in stopping very single-target telegraph CCs. So we'll see how it shakes out here. Again, a really fun comp. It's funny, we've almost flipped it, right? Now, Bethany have the standard comp, and it's University of Toronto eSports. They're going to show us something a little different. But we'll see how also like where they go, right? Because Defref is the Swain player. But he doesn't mean he has to go mid lane with the Swain. Could, of course, opt to go to that bottom side as well. So UOT willing to swap around where they're playing to get the players, the champions they're comfortable on. And it does seem like that's going to be the case here. It's going to be Little Frosty's Twisted Fate that he had already in the back pocket, and Defref is on the Swain, but it is going to be in that bottom side as we thought.
Yeah, a little too obvious there if it would have been Twisted Fate support. I draw the line at that. That is too far. Swain, I understand. You have abilities. You have scaling that doesn't necessarily need an influx of gold. Twisted Fate is rewarded for CS, and you don't want to put him down in the support role. As much as you think there's value with the stun and the global, there are better picks to accomplish that same goal. So keeping in the mid lane should be pretty exciting, as the gold card combination with the now improved ganking Xin Zhao could be a really deadly way to snowball onto the Sylas and maybe catch out Hunter trying to power clear his way on Udyr.
Yeah, Swain actually can combo with almost everyone, actually, except Kai'Sa, as far as pulling people back in. So we'll see how Swain goes. Typically likes getting gold, but I think does have enough utility to maybe warrant this pick. I'm really curious to see how it shakes out. And, you know, it's going to start off with a good old-fashioned little bit of brushery, as Sivir's going to get pulled in nice. And quickly, good hook, though, returns fire, and Seeker Mode's going to lose this trade.
Yeah, that was really beneficial on the side of Bethany. That is a huge trade, because it also gets you a health pot. You already took down the potion out of the Kai'Sa. Now the pull goes over. Let's see how, oh, that boomerang. If that one hit, that could have been the beginning of a really strong lane. But now that they have the minion wave push, I think that UOT has stabilized this minion wave, and their level 2 should come sooner.
And this is kind of something you were saying, right? When we, were speculating on TF support, right? Double range versus Sivir and Thresh, who are both pretty short to medium range. I mean, Thresh is like the only support that's in this weird middle ground as far as ranges go, but he's, not nearly the same as something like, a Lulu or a Karma when you think of range support. So he's definitely vulnerable to getting poked out here by the double ranged, and it seems like DefRef is doing a nice job early on that front as Donkey going to go ahead full clear that blue side. Now going to zip on down to that bottom half and see where things go from there. Definitely keeping an eye on mid lane as well. Bradley absolutely smacked DefRef in the 1v1 on that Gwen last game around, but Silas definitely a lot more about, the utility, keeping up in lane and then roaming around rather than like straight up brawling your opponent in mid from level 1.
Yeah, he should be getting a little bit shoved in against Twisted Fate unless TF starts taking some bad trades and uses his pick a card unwisely. But other than that, I think TF's range just allows him to constantly stay auto-attacking the minion wave, have priority in that sense, and then help out his own jungler, as the Xin, though, is taking the same route as last time. Donkey recognizing that, hey, our bot lane is shoved in. Hunter started him to the top side. I'm not going to bother trying to contest the Udyr. I'm just going to path back to the top and ensure that I get a Scuttle Crab. But here comes the first attempt from Hunter. Will he be spotted by this ward? He will see it. We'll get rid of it. But still looks like he's trying for something against Frosty.
Yeah, unfortunately didn't go the path to clear the ward. In fact, now Zin's here, so UOT considering a 2v2. Frosty was in a bit of trouble there. That wave was in a real bad spot, but is getting reverse now, so Frosty should be a-okay. And again, when Udyr's not here, Silas has a lot of trouble doing anything in this 1v1, especially when there's no E available for Silas to potentially jump to the Twist of Fate, as the skill shot was missed earlier by Bradley. Still attention in the mid lane as Hollywood faking some presence there towards that mid side, but a lot of investment being put into Bradley once again here on the Bethany side, so that is going to give a lot of room here for Frosty, who is both just fine in the 1v1, and for the bottom side, who are going to get the things pushed in their 2v2 nice and early on here as they look to take their first recall.
It's critical to help Bradley out here, not only because the matchup with Silas, you want to be helping him to deal with the Twisted Fate, but because of how he played last game. He clearly was popping off. He's feeling himself, so you got to help out these players when they're having a good game. You just put more resources on them and you count on them to be able to deliver. They've already shown it. They have the confidence. They've backed it up. And so the rest of the team being able to play around him can often be the recipe for victory. If everything else fails, you just count on the players that clutched it last time.
We heard TJ on the desk talking about it, but it's not something. It's something that you don't necessarily think all the way through when you hear, oh, this team's like really close. They'll lane swap sometimes. Typically you think, oh, it's just a support player playing like mid. That's cute, but like maybe not going to do anything. Little Frosty's TF is clean. He just the little things, like how he dealt with that wave under his tower that Bradley was desperately trying to push in. Clearly understands his champion really well. So it's nice to see a team that is clearly aware of, the strength of their players on certain champions, not just the strength of players in their roles. So even if Little Frosty plays support, 95% of the time, very clearly plays Twist of Fate in his spare time.
Oh, and something I just noticed, Pastry. It's attack speed TF. PTA,
yeah,
he's going AD. Yeah.
I was wondering why Stack Deck completely demolished Bradley's health bar. All right. It's a fun one. Haven't seen it in a bit, but definitely still pretty good. As Dragon is being attentive at Little Frosty here first, ready with the deck stacked up. Donkey in there, charging it onto Hunter. There's the ulti straight on top of him. And there's first blood, but it's for Wizardish, not what you wanted. As Udyr is going to fall, but now Little Frosty's going to have to get himself out of there. Bradley in onto Seeker mode, steals the Swain ulti, pops it off there. As Seeker mode is going to have to get himself away. 5-2-7 now in a 1v4 that he's not too happy about. Hollywood low, but is going to die. No, not yet. It's still Bradley popping that ulti onto Little Frosty as Bethany looking to make it happen. The stun lands, and Bradley going to take down Frosty as Bethany are going to win that fight.
They win it by a landslide. They don't get the dragon, but now Udyr is on the way back. They're going to be able to claim it. And level 6 on Ornn, I think they want a little bit more on this. They don't know that Salura has stayed here. Oh, they're overextended.
Yeah, there goes the ulti out of Ornn. Seeker mode's going to get absolutely trained by the Ornn Horn. And DefRef is turning back around. Seeker mode here as well, but Swain's going to die thanks to the Ornn charges. Wizardish collects the gold there, and now Donkey too late to follow up. He does get the charge in, but the W is not enough there. So Seeker mode will have to clear the wave and be happy with that. 4 kills now, over to Bethany.
Good play from the top laner, but here the key thing was that Donkey went too early. Twisted Fate pops the ultimate, But by the time he arrives, Sin is already dead. They had the numbers advantage. It's how you want to play Twisted Fate, but it was a little bit uncoordinated. And so then, once they've already committed multiple members, the Renekton is so strong. Look at how much he survives and deals damage, but everybody else has already turned tails. They have to back off. They lose too many members, and what looked like the play that could have started the snowball they needed now just accelerates the team fighting composition to a point that it's going to be really difficult, because this early on, you need those TF plays to work out.
Oh, the greed here as well. Punished so nicely by Salura. That's an amazing triple root, by the way, out of Depref. The whole reason it maybe looked even close, but unfortunately, just means that he ends up paying with his life, looking to try and turn things around. So Dragon, actually, which wasn't finished, by the way. I thought it was. Bethany going to go ahead and take the objective for themselves. So insult to injury, as they're up 1,000 gold, and they got the Dragon that was originally started.
They get everything, and now the Twisted Fate falling behind against the Silas is going to get shoved in. That limits his options. There's no more teleports available. And let's see now what Udyr and the Thresh can pull off. Hollywood and Hunter were critical last time around. Seems like their synergy is on point thus far, as double control ward on the river, grouping up to get the red buff, allowing the Sivir to stay alone into the bottom, and her wave clear is already too strong. 3 kills up, a Noon Quiver completed. Psycho Mode and Def Rep really can't keep up with how quickly she's able to shove out. Oh,
Bradley's just in there, buffing the E through the gold card and effortlessly wins the trade there. Little Frosty. You know, when you're playing attack speed TF, you need to keep them at arm's length and keep chucking cards in their face, right? That's how you out-harass them, you know, much like, you know, the short range champions like Teemo or Na would do, but in some sort of burst fight, unlike the APTF, where you can take those kind of fights a little bit easier. Much more about that damage over time with the pressy attacks. So Bradley, smart trade there. TP now on the top side, stolen the Twisted Fatal. He gets the animation as well. That's a sick one there, as Bradley is going to take out 527.
CC'd to death. I don't think he got his Koldamik off and healed back up. He just died right away. Quickly shoves the mid lane, takes a TFL when he's under the turret, and gets a nice kill in return. Here's a Shelly being aggroed and coming back, and he's not going to miss any experience. Catches that wave. That is a great way to answer Twisted Fate. That's exactly why you picked the Silas, to steal the ultimate, make plays as well, diminish the effect that Little Frosty could possibly have had. And that's already 2 games where Bradley has been so good.
Yeah, looking real good there. As Bradley going to go home, spend some of that gold. Has to be close to the Mythic now at this point. Little Frosty also working on that item. We'll see how it goes, but a combined 5-0-1 for the mid laner and AD of Bethany Vikings, respectively. So feeling pretty good. And as far as the carries we identified in the last game go, feels like the same carries after the races here in game number 2, as Hunter, big chillin' dancing here in the brush.
He's got Thresh in the top side of the river, so I think this is what they're looking for. Hopefully somebody tries to gank this Sivir. She's juicy bait with no flash. Xin is on the way. Do they fall for it? There's no Blast Cone to try to really attempt it, though.
Yeah, Hollywood's here as well, so I think they know that even if they could get in a 2v2, Hollywood's just going to pull away the Sivir. So instead, it's going to be the Roof Herald challenge here for UOT. Hunter already started it off. What a hook! Straight into the waiting arms of Donkey. Pops him away there with the ulti as Bradley popping in there with a Stolen Swain ulti once again. Def Raptor also with the ulti to go, but Bradley going to take him out with his own medicine as Seeker Mode in trouble, stunned up and killed by Bradley, who nabs the double now. Wizardish, oh my goodness, the spell shield on the flay. What a play out of Wizardish, as Donkey will barely flash himself to safety, but Bradley is taking 0 prisoners today, Crumbs, as 527 going to be forced to flash away.
They are so lucky they didn't lose everybody there. Renekton and Xin get out alive. They stopped the Rift Herald, but for how long? Wait a minute. Oh, no, they actually managed to kill it in the aftermath of that as well, so they get the objective too. That is a giant advantage for them since they haven't lost any CS. All that commitment, while Ornn still in the bottom lane was able to farm, and it all started with that hook. The hook that catches Sin once again forces the engage a little bit too early, and being uncoordinated for these fights was their undoing. So Donkey gets a little bit too close, gets hooked, and now UOT is forced to engage with only 3 members in the initial fight. Yes, the Rift Herald's in their favor, but Renekton, who was so important in that last fight, has to join and doesn't have the ultimate available.
And then from here, I mean, it almost looked like a perfect little set there. Wizardish onto Donkey, flashes out. Bradley still chasing 5-2-7, but everyone escapes. It just cost them all their summoners as Bradley is in a 1v2. Once again, up to that top side. No, he didn't twist a Fade ult there, although he could have, I guess. Ult is on cooldown, but that doesn't mean he didn't have an ulti earlier. Instead, it is actually a little Frosty that made his way up there with his own ultimate for realsies this time. So nothing happens at the end of it all. Bradley just going to be forced to run away, but does hold on to all the summoners. Same story there for little Frosty, as the rapid fire cannon is completed. So looking for them long-range gold cards. Definitely a lot more about the influence you can have on the side lanes and in plays with your ultimate at range than anything else. Whereas Bradley's going all damage. Has the Leandry's already finished.
Yeah, that is just a ridiculous spike already because you got your Mythic. It's a rapid fire cannon, so you're only really taking this item to increase your ability to set things up. You're not using this for damage, so you need to continue to look for plays. Rift Herald gets popped here. It's going to be a distraction there because the dragon is up, but at the very least, it will get you some plays as well. So Bethany Vikings doing a lot to try to snowball this lead as already they're dominating the side lanes. The Orm can deal with the Renekton, and no one can touch the Silas, and the wave clear from the Sivir is just too good. So they can crash all three lanes and assist the Udyr in going into the jungle. All right, he should know that there is a Silas there as a Spell Thieves procs.
It's a really good intuition there for Defref, just queuing the brush. Does find Bradley, but Bradley's still unnoticed. Now it's a 2v2 dive potentially. Oh, Bradley gonna miss the chains. Defref to target, but they dodge everything else, including that W right on the edge. Standing outside of the eye as Bradley gonna take these waves instead. There is a dragon up, but it will be felled. As Bethany able to go ahead and nab this objective for themselves. Feeling pretty good now on the side of the Vikings. As Hunter is gonna grab the second dragon. Once again, Bethany Vikings off to the races on the early objective front.
They're feeling great. They've got outscaling so down here. You've got Renektons in and TF to deal with when you have much more team fighting and an Ornn to boot as well as a Sivir. They have the lead. It's entirely up to University of Toronto to find a play now. But who are you going to gang up on? Where do you have enough damage? You have to follow the Kai'Sa. Renekton's already too far behind. He didn't get ahead. It's the Kraken Slayer on the Kai'Sa. So every play that you really are banking on has to involve the AD carry. And so far, Kai'Sa hasn't really been a part of this game plan. They need to incorporate her if they're trying to stay competitive here.
All right, we're back again here for little Frosty. Does have that hammer all finished. Kind of curious to see where the itemization goes for the TF. We'll find out later. It's actually cooldown boots instead, and now an extra longsword there for the Twisted Fate. So again, a big focus on making things happen with this ultimate. So we'll see how effective that is, as it's just about to come back up. Also going to be level 11 in short order, so can have it off cooldown a little bit more frequently. But going to have to be something here for this mid game, because, you know, the last game was barely up 2,000 gold in the early game for Bethany, and they felt pretty comfortable with that lead. This lead's actually quite a bit better than that, 3,000 gold and counting now, with once again an eye to a very quick soul snowball. And this time it's Infernal, which is, yeah, one of the big bonus souls that people like to grab.
Yeah, one of the most exciting as well. I love the fact that the map is opened up. Dodges out of the E from Silas and will ult away. So good moves there out of CKO mode. And
have to dodge too, because Bradley was going in. You were dead if that one hit. Even without that stun, Bradley straight in melee range of Kai'Sa, making pretty short work there of the enemy AD. As Wizardish here with Hollywood should be able to siege this up, or at least make it close. Being a bit careful though, as a little Frosty once again. Pretty decent wave clear despite being a DTF. Still keeps things at bay with the maxed up wildcards, so not too bad all things considered. And once again, he's almost level 11, looking to get out of the lane, which is actually one of the reasons I like that Bethany are having two champions sit here in mid and pressure this tower, because just keeping an eye on Twisted Fate for as long as possible, as Salura, our weak side specialist of the day, is dueling 5-2-7. Who is winning? The audience is winning right now. Oh, TP's in. Little Frosty here as well, though. That's cheating. And there was a Warden there as well, so the auto attack didn't even get cancelled. Bradley, though, going to steal the Renekton ulti, but get himself shut down. Oh, boy. That was the goal that UOT needed, but here comes Hunter. 5-2-7. Going to be made into shoes. Indeed will be, as Hunter does get the kill.
The rest of the squad collapses, but UOT, at least they find something. There is some gold on the map, but it actually just comes because Bradley TP's a little bit too late, was not able to match Little Frosty. Sin is here.
Oh goodness, Little Frosty straight in there again. Now the bounce house continues. Swain there pulling them back through. But Donkey now looking for the play, does challenge Wizardish. But Hunter low now, Swain's gonna grab that kill. TP in though, gonna have to be the gold card coming in. Salura though back from the grave. Is DefRef gonna sacrifice himself? And actually get the Ignite down, almost gets to go into Wizardish. The Ignite is just barely not good enough. But UOT are gonna walk away as well.
That was so close. They're finally finding what works for them. This is a lot like last game, where once the first outer turrets fall, when laning phases over, UofT is able to find more plays simply by getting there faster. They need to continue doing this. They're getting some more gold, some good farm. They're going to be dealing with the outscale eventuality of the Sivir, but at least getting things on the map is exactly what they need. They need to get more of these kills. They burned a lot of summoners to get them. Barely not able to get the shutdown onto the Sivir, but that's exactly what we need to see. That was a good use of the Twisted Fate ultimate, and just barely able to clip out Bradley as well. Despite having the Merc Treads, there was enough burst between Renekton and TF to actually pop him in the single stun.
Yeah, looking for the Hourglass next on Bradley's side, so definitely wants to get some insurance against similar sort of plays. Well, let's watch this one again. It's 5-2-7 locked in the battle with Salura, but not for very long, at least on his lonesome.
Yeah, so the Twisted Fate is able to pour because he's in the mid lane, whereas Bradley has to get into the brush and then TP's in. And the good move there was from 5-2-7, waiting on the blast cone to just surprise the Sylas. The rest of the team was collapsing. Maybe could have waited a little bit longer. Was already at 4-0. I can't blame him for going for that play. He has had such a strong showing in game one, and even in this one, he was already 4-0 before this one happened. And this is where they greed out. You've got multiple melee champions. The Sivir's already retreating. You're not going to catch the Twisted Fate, who still has the flash available. It is unfortunate for DefRef, who tried so hard to kill Wizardish here. Just watch as he attempts to finally catch out the Sivir. Just not able with the ultimate. Maybe could have popped it a little bit sooner, but thought he had it with the Ignite.
Yeah, Sportsway not messing around, it turns out. Has, like, no items, basically. Right? I mean, Sork Shoe is probably the best item in the inventory there for Swain right now. Has a stopwatch, an arm guard, and sure, an Oblivion. I mean, it's not too bad, but definitely not the super threatening AP menace that Swain can be, but DefRef still putting in work despite all that, as Little Frosty is continuing to delay the mythic item, as Manamune now instead converted that tier we saw earlier. So still curious to see what mythic Little Frosty does want to settle on here, but perhaps we'll find out never, as it could be a build that doesn't feature one or features one so late that it's not really core to what's happening here. 5-2-7 getting things pushed in. Little Frosty with a couple friends here in the mid lane are going to try and knock down this tower, but it does seem like Wizardish has enough support to get onto the wave, so that siege attempt will be put to rest for now.
Every time I've seen Twisted Fate go with an auto attack build, it tends to be Divine Sunder as your mythic item, just because you do like the armor and magic pen out of the champion. You do want to be a little bit beefy, since you do have to put yourself kind of in harm's way to go for it, but yeah, the build right now really lacking in that department. I would love to see Mythic. There's just so much value from it. You do synergize really well with it, and you would already get some significant value out of it, since you have 2 legendaries already completed. I think a Ruby Crystal will tell us that that is what he's going for, but finding plays is more important than anything else right now. It looks like 5-2-7 just barely walks out of the hook range.
Gonna be okay. Good dodge there. Hollywood was looking for the pick, but does not find it. It is quietly 3 dragons, though, for Bethany. They did actually take the last Infernal as well. So 3 minutes time for that Infernal Soul, which is awfully quick for this game. And even though the gold is close, and University of Toronto eSports very much showing that they can compete if the game gets a bit scrappier, or, you know, if things just kind of line them up, even though the comp is a bit unconventional. They clearly understand what their champions are trying to do. It'll be a lot about not doing this. Let's put it that way. Wizardish on a rampage as the Swain gets fished out, and Bethany finally reaps some rewards of their vision control of the enemy jungle. Now Secret Mode in trouble. Ulti flash out, but the flash play will follow. And that's going to be a kill. Yes, it is indeed. As Wizardish is going to grab it. Salura left out to dry once again. What a flash, mate. Over the top he goes, but Little Frosty will follow. 527 is going to grab that kill, but it's damage done on the bottom side for Bethany.
They're totally fine with this trade. Sivir is not going to continue, though. They don't want to lose out on much more. They're not looking to get that inhibitor turret at the moment. They'll just back off. But only losing the Ornn when he's playing weak side, when he already is going to be providing value to your team while you're killing the supports and getting turrets, is a trade that Bethany will be happy to make. The Sivir continues to be ridiculously fed. 650 gold on her head already, and no one seems to be close to being able to take her down. It was only in that overextension, the one time it looked like it was going to be close. And with 1 minute 30 being the play and the Twisted Fate ultimate being burned earlier, this now means that University of Toronto will not have the playmaking tools to find a pick before the team fight. They will have to 5v5 against Bethany if they stay grouped up and don't give them an opportunity. And that's never where you want to be when you've got your Twisted Fate. He's not a team fighter. You're dealing with a giga-fed Sylas and the Sivir already. It's going to be really tricky for them to maneuver around this and not just get wiped off the map.
All right, well, a minute away. So again, gold somewhat close, but feels like the carriers of Bethany are a little too strong here. But unfortunately for UOT, likely going to be forced to fight here at the next juncture because cannot afford to give away the Infernal Soul, which is the pressure you are put under when the enemy team has done so well controlling that objective. Donkey in trouble. Be such a good pick here before the potential Drake. Bradley again is going for a Hunter. Flash slaps his way in there, and Xin Zhao dances back to an enemy team member, not where you want to be. Here's Bradley. Going to take him out. In fact, might just be Baron before this Dragon for a bit of extra credit.
Well, this is Defref just face checking and dying in the bot side. This is what led to the tier 2 being taken, and then the gank into the top side. See, or could have just backed off, right? You could have just left entirely. There's no need to actually crash that wave. You just wanted to give a little bit of action to the Renekton, as he's just been whacking away at minion waves all game long. And that kind of play, it's a little bit of gold, but not too consequential. 3 seconds in, no one is fighting this. They're going for Ornn. They're going to trade it. They're giving up the Infernal Soul.
Yeah, unfortunate stuff, but Donkey's still dead. Instead, they'll just push through mid. Salura going to die again. Oh my goodness, he killed 527. Little Frosty going to go ahead and grab this tower, but what more can he get done? The Soul is dead, of course. Wizardish will swoop in to make sure that happens quicker, which I like. Bradley topside going to shut down the TF. And it's a tragedy on the UOT side as Bethany going to grab the Soul. Bradley's going to grab the kill. There's more than enough time to reset and make sure the enemy team can't take a Baron. So, not a lot of counterplay left for UOT eSports, unfortunately for them. It's Bethany just getting further and further ahead.
Just now they realized they could go after Ornn. It's the only play, the only member that's overextended, and I think credit has to be given to Bethany's draft against Twisted Fate. Thresh is so difficult to deal with when you can just lantern people out. Same thing with the Sivir, the movement speed, the ability to spell shield the gold card. Then you've got Udyr. You don't need to say much about the champion. He's so tanky and fast. He's going to get away from you. And Sylas takes your own ultimate to match it. And so the only person that realistically can be affected is the Ornn. But by now, it's already too late. It's some gold. It's some semblance of pressure. But the Infernal Soul is too big of a price to pay.
All right, well, Bradley going to go ahead and clear this vision. There's a big wave here that will actually kill the tower. Little Frosty not going to make it in time to clear it. In fact, Bradley's thinking like he sees another solo kill on the horizon. But not just yet. We'll watch what happened here in top lane. Once again, Little Frosty trying to attack the only side of the map they really can.
And they're tanking a bunch of damage, but you can see how beefy this Ornn is, and it's ADTF, so by stacking armor, he can survive much longer. I don't think it would have made much of a difference if he were AP, though, this time around. Sylas still does just fine against APTF. And so the fact that Ornn is so beefy is just so hard for them with double Doormail. Here's a TF ulti, though. A fight's happening.
Oh, that hook looked real good as Bradley's still on the sway note once again. 527 going to be put in the bouncy castle. And the ulti out of Swain's not enough as Hunter's already taken out Little Frosty. Wizard slow, but he flashes out of danger. And now the triple kill over onto Bradley. Salura steals the Penta. But it's an ace nonetheless for Bethany. And they're actually just going straight back to Baron, saying, you know what? We were playing PvE this whole time, and turns out they still are.
It's a clean haze, too. 5 for 0, not even close. Sivir just had to flash burn her heal to survive, but no bounties going over the Baron, and that could seal the deal for the University of Toronto. Bethany already too strong to team fight. They're not able to side lane against them, and just by grouping, they're getting to a point where there's just not much options for the University of Toronto. It's not even a PTS, so that means you don't have wave clear. Your wave clear is much weaker than if you were AP, so the Baron could be used to great effectiveness to take down turrets and potentially end the game, since they can also tower dive with the Ornn, with the Thresh. Here's Ornn by himself, but he's not really scared of it.
Oh my goodness, the Infernal Assault on. As Bradley's roaming in as well, I am shocked he didn't flash E in there, but shows some restraint there. Bradley not going to enter the potential 1v4, instead gonna reset and probably spend some gold here as University of Toronto trying to find a few people straggling in the river. But no takers, no exit kills there for UOT eSports. As the reset will happen here for Bethany. They're still gonna have a couple minutes left on the Baron buff, and towers are gonna be under threat. Whoa. Gale Force ultis in on top of Seeker mode. That is quite gross. Oh my god, that Q hit him as well. Wizardish, what aim! Gets the Boomerang Blade straight to the back of the enemy AD's head. Hollywood's found one. 527 is going to be drawn in, but Hollywood perhaps a bridge too far. Instead, it's Bradley popping the Renekton ulti. Now going to zoom in there. Flash ulti looks for the E. Doesn't quite nab it because the flash was good from Little Frosty, but Bradley's still going to get the kill. And it's absolute carnage for Bethany eSports as Bradley finds the triple kill.
They are not hesitating. They want this game to be over, and they're going to get it with the Baron, with the Sivir, just at around the same plan, the same time as last game. Bethany Vikings will 2-0 the University of Toronto.
Yeah, going to be a speedy sweep here for the Bethany Vikings. Looking oh so good, but Bradley and Wizard are certainly as good, if not better than advertised. Going to take down the Nexus and move themselves on one step closer to the College Championship.
Great KDAs, great play, and playing to the strengths of their players. This was what Bethany Vikings showed today. Good champion pools as well. Delivering on the latest pick in Summoner's Rift, that counts for a lot moving forward into the tournament, as everybody else who hasn't played Gwen will have to respect that now they can play it, and they can play it damn well too.
Yeah, I like how different their two games were, right? You know, after game one drops, I was like, oh, it's this team. These are like the Gwen pickers, and they play all like the weird stuff, but they're just really like efficient. And, you know, the bottom laner plays meta, but everyone else is kind of a little wild. No, not at all. Just have like more than enough picks, it seems like. Basically running, you know, the wild stuff in game one, and then almost stock standard, to be perfectly honest, but still very effective there in game number 2. In fact, it's funny to flip the drafts there with UOT eSports. Unfortunately, bowing out of the tournament with that loss, but taking a couple of their own signature picks into battle, which was always fun to see. But not enough to take down Bethany. We're looking real hot to kick off this top 8.
Yeah, the carries in particular, Wizardish, Bradley. When you've got two carries that you can count on, it makes the life so much easier for everybody else. When you know the damage is taken care of, then dealing with protecting and engaging, you have so much more confidence because they're going to be farming. They're going to have the right champions for the job. They had a great draft as well. I think their drafting was a strength today too, dealing with what UofT showed, and that also has to be taken into account, because it's one thing to win and come out with a scrappy win with a weak draft, but this time I thought they did a great job in recognizing what the Twisted Fate wanted to do and nullifying it right at the start.
Yeah, I'm not sure what side they wanted, but getting red side both times, and I think showing a lot of their power in draft, how flexible they are, how deep their champion pools are, and just navigating really nicely. Again, against some like pretty tricky drafts to try and come up against, especially if you're not as familiar with some of those picks. So across the board, Hunter also, I think, like maybe the quiet MVP here for Bethany, just on two very different junglers, right? I mean, maybe both good at ganking, but one that is basically only a permanent fixture in solo queue, and one that is just about everywhere in the Udyr. But really making the other lanes except top lane work. Unfortunately, Salura left out to dry for a lot of this series.
Yet sometimes that's what you want. That's exactly when you know you've done a great job. If the team's got your back and you just have to play weak set and you just know that your team has won the game, it's a rewarding feeling knowing that you might not be flashy and involved in the plays, but that you're still fulfilling a role that allows them to play so aggressive in the bot side. So even tank players playing weak side get some love. It's a team game. Great job in the Ornn and the Kled.
Yeah, Weakside Kled, my new favorite top line pick. All right, well, the Bethany Vikings have bested the University of Toronto to take the series, and the State Farm Analyst Desk is going to be walking us through their win with Hollywood when we return.
Welcome back to the 2021 College Championship. We are on the other side of the best of three series in which the Bethany Vikings have taken down University of Toronto. And here on the State Farm Analyst Desk, we are so excited to be joined by none other than one of the players himself, Hollywood, coming from the support position. Hollywood, what a victory you just had. Give me the details. How are you feeling after that just magnificent matchup you had?
Oh man, it's you can't really describe the feelings. Of course, this was a top 8 for us, and it was a very good match for us to win. We felt really confident going in, and we just stick to our strengths. So it's fun.
That confidence definitely showed on a team level, getting to see the coordination from you all. How comfortable do you feel when it comes to that kind of communication that you all have and the friendship that you have built throughout this entire tournament?
It is really comfortable, I think, playing with the guys, whether we're in a high pressure situation or if it's just a scrim. Our structure that we built this whole year has been very easy to follow, and everyone putting in effort and everyone trying to do their best is just really helpful. So
yeah, it felt like that. Even watching just your series versus like Mustang University, your team fighting is pretty straightforward, and also like the fundamentals are strong. Even going into this draft that we see underneath us, that University of Toronto had this thing where they put their mid laner bot lane as Swain support. They did this previously. Throwing in haymakers. You guys really weren't phased by that. Like, what was the comms like coming into this game? Like, did you expect that to be the case? Like, did you care about it when it actually happened?
So game one, we knew after that win they had to change something up. We were expecting a Swain for sure. We were expecting maybe a Talon because he did play a little bit of Talon. So honestly, it didn't really phase us, and we just kind of stuck to our fundamentals and stayed strong. It's just like any other solo queue pick. You know, solo queue you practice against Swain supports, things of that nature. So it's very easy for us.
So Hollywood, would you say that your coach prepared you for the game then? Do you think that having a coach is super beneficial? I know they don't really have too many staff members at Toronto.
Yeah, I would say is a more collective effort. I think we all kind of did our own research, and Colin definitely helped us out with the prep and the draft. So I would say the whole team did really well for this one.
And I'm excited to get to relive some of those moments here. And we have Hollywood here joining us as we go through the last game that we just witnessed. TJ, I know that you wanted to point out specifically that dragon fight that we saw early on, kind of setting the tone for what we saw from Bethany.
Yeah, so here in this first play, we see a dragon start, and this is not a traditional engage where it's like, hey, we just press our Ornn ultimate and we go forward. This was a little bit scrappy. So Hollywood, I'm wondering, what were the comms like during this play, and who was really driving that you guys wanted this fight? What did that sound like?
There was a lot of Bradley and Freeze in this fight. We knew that we had the confidence to go in. Once Zin goes in, he can't really get out, right? And Thresher's really good at hooking people back in and flaying people, disengaging, that sort of thing. So once we had the TPs come in, it was just kind of clean up from there.
Yeah, and I also just thought that the setup was great. Like, it felt like this was just a great dragon timer for you guys with Udyr pathing towards bot lane, and you guys were also getting the lane stacked up bot wave too. We didn't get to see it, but it was very apparent when like Kai'Sa literally the moment she joined the fight, it was already over. So I thought the setup was great. So like going back to the fundamentals that you already talked about at the very beginning.
Yeah, and speaking of some of those fundamentals, Hollywood, we got to see some great moments from you that led to the victory for Bethany, specifically thinking about what we saw around the Rift Herald around 10:30. Just walk me through what's going through your head when you really have the cojones to go for a play like this.
Yeah, it's kind of a similar situation where Zin is kind of threatening to go in, and we know that he can't be here. In our words, this is illegal, right? So we kind of just hooked him, and we kind of just got rid of him. And as their team fighting is really split here, so we knew that going into this, it was just really easy for us to win. So
my question to you is like on the Thresh pick, because I know it was first picked previous game by University of Toronto, and then you were able to literally just smurf in both these fights, I think, off that, and like just getting free picks. Like, how much did you attribute it to the pick? I mean, a lot of it can be off of like previous series. I think you played really well on the Rel. Is Thresh just like a comfort pick for you?
Thresh is just really good bot lane. He beats Leona, he beats like Nautilus, he can't beat Nautilus, he beats Alistar, he beats Rel. And in that situation, I've never got to play Thresh ever. It's been banned every time. And I was on Rel duty the past two series at Colmers, like, let's just draft you Rel, it's good. But yeah, it was partly the pick too. And he's just so flexible with that lantern. You can do W max, E max for lanes where you need a trade, take Guardian, all that stuff. So Thresh is very flexible.
So Hollywood, I know you come from the mid lane with your Talia. I'm wondering, what is your favorite pick in bot lane, and what challenges have you had to go through with the role swap?
Oh, the role swap was insanely hard, TJ. The lane is very different from mid, and coming back from a 2-year hiatus, it was really hard to get back into competitive league for me. I would say my favorite champ right now is probably Leona. She just goes in and is tanky and just doesn't die. So I love my Leona, yeah.
Leona's the bae. That makes me so happy to hear. But one thing with your role swap coming from the mid position, that means that you do have Bradley coming onto this team for mid lane. And we are happy to share that Bradley was in fact player of the series. Can you tell me a bit of what he offers to this team and what it is like playing alongside him?
Bradley for me he's been the player in my whole career that has impressed me the most. He can be great. His mechanics are untouched, right? But it's his attitude and his work ethic that really shines through. His attitude is very selfless. Not to throw any shade, of course, but high elo players, they tend to be very egotistical, self-ego, and Freeze is the opposite of that. Freeze, I'm just down to one player, but he takes everything I say as he takes it to heart, and he really takes feedback really well. So Freeze is fantastic. Can't talk enough good about this guy.
There you go. I mean, like, kind of doubling up on that. Coming into this series, I was excited to watch not just like Bradley, but also Wizardish, who you're supporting. Like, those two players are usually pretty damn aggressive. Like, limit testing, would you say that's accurate? And how have you guys been in scrims and developing around that?
Yeah, it was tough to get used to, of course, in the beginning. But as we kind of flushed out our own style and we kind of figured out what we wanted to do, it's something we had to adapt to. And us always going in, like, I know there's like we have this whole saying with us, we're like the meme team, and we kind of just do whatever. And honestly, it's kind of true. We just kind of have fun with it. We draft fun champs, we have fun comms, and we don't take it too seriously. Of course, it's at the end of the day, we're just playing League of Legends and we're trying to win. So it's a good balance of both.
Hell yeah.
With all of that fun that you're having, though, and being able to switch things around, it does feel like there's that competitive edge that comes from it too, right? You've had multiple role swaps, which kind of opens up the pools there. How much do you feel that having kind of this open mindset, everyone willing to just have a good time, has allowed all of you to improve as players and being able to adapt to these situations?
It's great. It's great. It's my top laner, Shalur, today. He's a rookie this year for Collegiate, and he was actually quite nervous in this match. And granted, understandably so. And I told him, hey, it's what we practice for. This is what we practice for. We literally scrim for this reason, to play in playoffs. So I'm like, hey, don't be nervous. Like, we're here to play. We're here to practice. It's what we trained for. So, and then once he got the nerves out, you can kind of see him actually playing really well this set. Yeah, it's been great. It helps a lot, being very fun and very, yeah, I guess just a fun atmosphere helps a lot. So.
And you've had this moment after the series to come down a bit, let those nerves settle, bask in the glory of the victory. But the tournament's not over. We do have a match coming up, Maryville versus Columbia. You're obviously looking at these teams for the furthering of this competition. What are your thoughts on that matchup, the reigning champions being taken on by Columbia Cougars?
Oh, this is a classic, as always they say. I was on CC 2 years ago, and my biggest nemesis was Maryville. Never got to beat them, so I'm rooting against Maryville, of course. I'm still with my Cougars, my homies, but it's probably going to be a Maryville favorite, but I hope they prove me wrong.
The bonds are real. They last forever
hear.
when you have served on a team. Yeah, we love to hear it. Hollywood, thank you so much for stopping by, and congratulations again on your victory here today.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, what a blast we have had thus far. A victory in the pocket of Bethany, but we do have another match to come. As we just said, Columbia will be taking on the reigning champions in Maryville. You don't want to miss it. Keep it locked here. We'll see you on the other side of this break.